Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talks at Google. My name is Kate Johnson, and I am Head of Global Sports and Entertainment Marketing Partnerships here at Google. And today I have the distinction of hosting a very special conversation with two fantastic Olympians. One thing that's kind of a fun fact about me is that I am an Olympian as well. I competed in the 2004 Olympic Games in Athens. And what do Olympians love more than anything else is getting to talk to other Olympians about their own careers, their own journeys, the adversity that they overcome. And I think given the fact we're in July, a time when the Olympic Games for 2020 and the Summer Games would have been kicking off, it's a special time to be talking to Olympians about how they're handling adversity right now, their journey in their own career path that maybe can apply to all of us as we're experiencing certainly unprecedented times. And I feel very fortunate in that the pair that I'm going to be speaking with today and introducing shortly, I was able to watch compete at the Sochi Olympic Games in 2014. Alex and Maia Shibutani are incredible, otherwise known as the Shib Sibs. I have to actually read all the accomplishments these two have achieved in their very short lifetime, being so young. But they are two-time Olympians, having competed in Sochi in 2014, winning the bronze medal in 2018 at the Pyeongchang 2018 Olympic Winter Games. They are three-time world medalists, 2016 four-continent champions. They've won 6 titles on the Grand Prix, and they are actually the first ice dancing pair of Asian descent to have competed and won an Olympic medal. And they're actually the second sibling duo to compete and share an Olympic medal as well. And we're also incredibly privileged in that they have a very popular YouTube channel called the Shib Sibs, which I have spent a lot of time on recently. So with that, I'm going to introduce Alex and Maia, and we're going to have a fantastic conversation today.
Hi, Kate.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Great. Well, I mean, these two have a personality, and I know that's going to come out over the course of our conversation.
We just have one, actually. It's a shared personality.
And thus it begins with Alex. So, hey, you know what? I wanted to just bring people a little bit on the journey. I mean, many people will have watched you. You guys were certainly a darling pair to watch during, both Olympic Games that you competed in. So I know many of us have followed along on your journey, but rarely do we ever get to meet the team behind the team and the personalities behind the two of you. So I'd love to just start with kind of, your career in general and how, as siblings, you found your way into ice dancing. Alex, let's start with you.
Oh, man. Oh, gosh, Maia always tackles this part.
He does. We'll give it over to Maia. It's up to you.
No, it's okay. I'll do a mediocre job of explaining how we started.
It depends how far back you want to go, Alex.
Right. So
it all started when you were born.
Right. Well, yeah, it did. But we have a 3.5-year age difference. And from a very early age, Maia decided that skating was something that she was really passionate about and was very excited about doing. And that was not the case for me at all. I learned how to skate. We grew up in Connecticut, so in the Northeast, and skating being kind of generally sort of, you find it via the climate that you live in. I don't know too many people living in tropical locations that are like ice skating. That's something I want to do competitively. But, the internet has done amazing things to kind of expose people to all sorts of stuff. But Maia started skating at a very early age and was really committed. And eventually we started skating together. But that wasn't until 2004, I want to say. Is that right, Maia? Am I messing this up?
No, you're doing well.
Okay, cool. And up until 2004, we had been skating individually, Maia to greater degrees of success than myself, but we both enjoyed it equally. And once we started skating together, things really clicked into place. We have always had a really good relationship. We've always gotten along. And so our coaches and our parents and onlookers thought that it would be a good opportunity for us to improve our skating skills, skating together, because one of the things that ice dance is known for is sort of the quality of the skating itself, albeit there aren't jumps or throws or twists, but ice dance, the skating quality is really good. And so that was kind of a unique opportunity for us to do something together as a team. And we really enjoyed it. And I think that showed itself in the progress that we were able to make from a very early age.
And Maya, do you have any memories of kind of your brother starting to push in on what had been your sport, or were you just welcome, open arms? This isn't just my scene. This can be your scene too, Alex.
Alex and I have always been good at sharing, and he's always been a really good older brother. So to add some information, we started skating individually when we were 4 and 7, and then we teamed up when we were 9 and 12. So, I had enough time being out there by myself. Originally, the dream was to go to the Olympics by myself, but as soon as we started training and working together, I realized that I just had so much more fun having a partner out there, because there's so much creativity involved, but then there's also stress that comes from training. And so being able to trust Alex and have fun and enjoy the good and the bad together was always a nice aspect of being a team.
And we were always at the rink together anyway. And so when Maia says she wanted to go to the Olympics by herself, I don't think that necessarily should be interpreted as I don't want Alex to go to the Olympics with me. It was just more that we were competing as single skaters individually. And so that was how she always envisioned that experience potentially playing out. But throughout our career, we've had some really incredible moments that I think were made so much more special because we got to work towards those moments together as a team. And then, dealing with pressure and the moment, being able to experience that together was and has been incredibly gratifying.
It's definitely not what I pictured when I was 5, but quickly, Alex, each Olympics that we went to, it was so special to look around, be in the Olympic environment, and be there with your best friend, your sibling. And so there'd be times where we'd be on the ice practicing, and I'd see Alex and the Olympic rings were behind him, and I'd have to kind of like pinch myself and be like, this is happening, this is amazing, let's just embrace the moment.
I love it. And I want to get into the meat of the Olympic experience, because I know people just love pulling back the curtain on that. But Maia, you mentioned something about the Olympic dream. Like how early did each of you have your own Olympic dream? Like how young were you? And what were maybe just some of the things that, like, for me, I wrote my dream down in black permanent ink and didn't show it to anybody for years until I was legit. How young were you? What were some of the things that you guys each did when you had that dream? And then when did you actually share the dream together? Like, how young were you when you actually co-shared the Olympic dream?
I feel like we really kind of felt like it was potentially something we could work towards when we were watching the games in 2006. We both have really special memories of watching in 2002, the opening ceremony, seeing all these different events. It's kind of hard for me to pinpoint a specific ignition moment. It was more just something that you see that's this amazing global event. You see all these incredible stories of grit and determination and triumph. And so it was just something special that I always dreamed of being a part of.
I remember being aware of the Olympics starting from 1994. So actually probably, before Maia was born, when the good old days, when I was just, king of the mountain. But there are videos, there are family videos that show me running around in a circle, counterclockwise, like a speed skater, because it was on television in our living room. And so while it wasn't figure skating, I was doing some form of mock skating. Technique was questionable, but the Olympics were something that inspired me, not from the standpoint of me being 3 years old and really wanting to go to the Olympics, but it was something that we watched as a family growing up. And then I think Maia's right, around 2002 we had already been skating for a little bit at that point, and it became more of a clear idea of something that we could work towards. And a dream that we could think about every day when we went to the rink. And it really went from there.
And did you talk about it? Like, was it a family conversation, or did it just kind of evolve organically? Was it something that you'd sit down at the start of every season and roadmap your path to the Olympics? Or do you feel like it was just kind of this evolution?
I feel like it was an evolution because our progression through ice dance was really accelerated, but it came from a place of us really just enjoying what we were doing. And so I think as we got older and we were more of the age where you could even qualify for the games, that's when it became more of a conversation about how we could plan our progress and our training. But initially it was just about making sure that we were enjoying what we were doing.
Okay. And
definitely. And from, sorry to interrupt, from our parents' perspective, I mean, I don't know exactly how they were feeling, but we both sensed that, and they talked about it too, was that they wanted to make sure that we were really enjoying what we were doing. And Maya definitely loved figure skating, and it was something that I did because she kind of did it, at least initially. But as long as we were, focused and enjoying it, that was the most important thing to them. So even for Maya, maybe for Maya, for you, it was you wanted to go to the Olympics. For me, it was I like being a ham and performing on the ice, and it wasn't necessarily the same degree until we started skating together.
Yeah. I watched that video on Shib Sibs about your mom, which is amazing and super anthemic. She obviously in that video comes across as a fundamental key player in supporting your dreams, but it doesn't sound like they put a ton of pressure on you guys either. Is that true?
Both of our parents are so amazing. We really feel so fortunate when we kind of think about our career to know that it was always our choice. I don't think that that's every athlete's experience, but I think that the fact that it was always our dream is what allowed us to weather all of the challenging moments, because they were there to support us and encourage us. And I think that they kept us grounded and realistic to understand that there aren't always going to be easy and fun days. But if you can remember why you love what you're doing, then you can find what makes it worth it.
And before we started skating, before Maya was born, when they were kind of prepping me for, the arrival of a new human being in my life, they did a really amazing job of teaching us to care about each other and care for each other and take care of each other. And so I think that they were really proud that we were working together on something and getting along so well. Regardless of the results, it's probably really an amazing thing to see to have any parent experience their kids get along, as I'm sure may be the case during this quarantine period that we're in, where kids are at home, families are at home. I think that if we were younger right now experiencing this quarantine, we'd be getting along, right, Maya?
I agree.
Were there ever any points along your journey, guys, especially as young kids, right? Because you started so young, where you felt like dreams were diverging, or where maybe one of you had more motivation than the other one, and how would you handle that?
I think something that's always been helpful in our partnership is that our motivation has always been pretty equal. I mean, there's some days that are tougher than others, but I think it's our trust and respect for each other that allows us to push through those challenging days. So I don't think that there were any moments where we doubted, are we not going to be a team anymore, or if someone's heart wasn't in it.
And not that being family is necessarily
a guarantee.
Necessarily make it easier for partnerships or work relationships to survive, especially over time. When you're 9 and 12 to the Olympics, that's a lot of time and a lot of experience. And you're totally right, Kate. People can change and their interests can change. But I think that we always approached our skating with kind of this philosophy of setting a plan. And naturally, I think we both have a lot of discipline, and patience comes with sort of partnership, like learning. And so we were able to learn throughout the process to be, persistent in trying to accomplish the goals that we had laid out for ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm going to make a quick PSA. We're going to be taking questions at the end of our conversation. So do feel free to start putting your questions into the live chat now, and we'll start to aggregate those questions. But guys, I'd love to pivot to, can you ground the audience in kind of really what the difference is between ice dancing and figure skating, and like what's the difference, and also maybe now talk about too what the critical components of partnership in that, and why it's maybe unique to ice dancing versus other parts of figure skating and ice skating.
Okay, so this is a common question that we get asked. Ice dance is a discipline of figure skating, so I guess if figure skating is the main umbrella, there are skaters that skate by themselves, and then there are skaters that are part of teams. So for us, there's in the Olympics, pairs and ice dance. So Alex and I do ice dance, which is more, like he was saying earlier, skating skill oriented, creative storytelling. pairs, you see throws and lifts above the head, and we're close, but I wouldn't let Alex throw me. So that's why we didn't do pairs. And so ice dance, there's always a challenge because sometimes you have different music that you're required to skate to or a different theme. But then we also found ways to be creative in our own music selections. And I think that really was a key part of our success between our first and second Olympic Games was the choices that we made.
Got it.
Yeah, ice dance has a lot of all of the disciplines of figure skating. So there's single skating, like Maia mentioned, pair skating, and ice dance, and synchronized skating. And all of them have different specifications and rules and unique qualities that the skater has to have that makes them, I guess, uniquely suited for that discipline that they're competing in. And so sometimes we get asked, oh, like, well, couldn't you guys just like go to the Olympics by yourself? Maybe Maia could, I definitely couldn't, just because the skills that I've developed over this period of time have been very much directed towards being an ice dancer. But yeah, I think that generally ice dance, when we talk about it as a discipline or when it's spoken about during the Olympics, it's known for the drama and the romantic storylines. And I think that's just kind of the history of the sport. And Maia and I obviously are a different look as far as what has been. And so we were required to, just based on the makeup of who we are, being siblings, but then also being Asian Americans or of Asian descent in a sport that primarily is, deeply rooted in Eastern and Western European tradition. And so telling the stories, skating to the music, and figuring out a way to best sort of represent ourselves and what we wanted to do on the ice was definitely a process, but something that I think we kind of cracked when we realized that we could be ourselves and fully immerse ourselves in that creative process.
Yeah. You mentioned something, Alex, that made me think about this. So the romantic aspect of ice dancing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Was that ever something as siblings that was kind of, I mean, it's theater too, right? So, but did you guys ever bump into, wow, we're really having to act out this romantic scene, we're siblings, that was harder to get through, or especially where you're being judged, like judges are looking for that nuance that was harder as siblings to portray?
Right. At the start, no, because we were 9 and 12 and no one's going to be like, oh, you're 9 and 12. You have a dream. You want to go to the Olympics or start ice dancing together. Well, you're siblings, so you're not going to be able to do that. Like, that's very footloose. You can't dance. You can't dance in this town. For us, we just really enjoyed it. And we were 9 and 12 and it was cute, I guess, to watch us skate, and we were good. We were technically skilled and we enjoyed performing. And so there were never any people that directly approached us, judges, fans, officials, that were like, this is going to get weird. I really think that you should do something else. It was more something that kind of gradually occurred as our career progressed, right? We were always very advanced in our career. And so we were generally the youngest team at most of the competitions that we went to until, closer to 2015, 2016, leading up to the 2018 games. And so we always looked smaller. But once we started competing against people who were in their late 20s and early 30s at the Olympic level, at the senior level in 2011, then we realized that there was a bit of a complication where, majority of our competition were portraying sort of more adult themes and telling these stories or using music that we couldn't quite pull off or wouldn't want to pull off in the same way. And so that's when we started to realize that we had to be more creative. But up until then, there really hadn't been too many constraints as far as what we were trying to do.
And I think it's just that realization that there is tradition in the sport and there are typical ways of approaching it. But we kind of had to open our minds and realize that just because we were going to be different didn't mean that there weren't also other possibilities. It just meant being a little bit more creative.
Where do you think being siblings gave you guys the competitive advantage over other pairs?
Sibling telepathy.
If that was true, we would have answered that at the same time. But right. I think
there's really Sorry, I'm just.
I think that it's really the trust, and it's the fact that we get along, because we mentioned it at the beginning. But it can be stressful to compete because you're spending so much time training. you're dedicating your life to something. And then when you have that moment that's 3 or 4 minutes, I mean, everyone deals with anxiety differently. So for us, because we know each other so well, I think that we're able to be really in the moment and appreciate what's happening. But sometimes you notice with other people that they start acting a little differently around their partners. So that's why I think the strength of our bond has really helped us.
Yeah, I think that I mentioned it before. It's sort of all these lessons that we've been able to learn experience by experience. And the retention of those lessons as we kind of move on to the next thing in our life on and off the ice. For us, I think our bond is obviously one of our strongest strengths, greatest strengths. And I think, it comes down to in intense situations or competitive situations where a lot is on the line at the Olympics, it is deemed to be the most important competition in our sport. And so you spend 4 years leading up to the games with a plan to try and accomplish your goal. But then if you sort of zoom out, all of a sudden it's almost your entire life. And that amount of pressure can be a lot to deal with, especially if you haven't dealt with it before. And sort of the way that you're viewed as an athlete and your accomplishments in the sport can really be summed up in a sentence or two, and it's how you did at the Olympics. And so I think we kind of learned how to deal with that over time, but we, at the end of the day, really enjoyed competing because we enjoyed performing. We didn't get into the sport because it was something we liked doing in a corner by ourselves. We liked getting out there and showing our work. And I think that confidence is a choice, and we chose to be confident in those situations.
Yeah. Maia, you mentioned obviously kind of the first Olympics versus the second Olympics. There's a real transformation that occurs, right? Can you? I want you to talk about that, but can you do that also just by starting with, and maybe it changed throughout the two games, but give us a day in the life of what it's like to be you training for Sochi, and if it was different, training for Pyeongchang. Like, what is the AM to the PM? What does that look like for a professional skater?
I think that for our first Olympics, some of the best advice we got was to really just enjoy and embrace the moment, because there's no way that you can really hear about it enough or prepare until you actually experience it. So as far as our day-to-day training, I think that we always believed that we were hard workers and that we were doing our very best in the moment. But I think that there are just so many lessons that we learned from that first Olympics that parlayed into different habits as we were preparing for the second. So whether that's being able to more fully visualize the moment and the pressure that you'll feel, or if you have a better sense of time and the progression and how you need to be planning your training and preparation, experience helps.
Yeah, definitely. I think the ability to recognize that failure is a part of the process, and learning to not only accept failure into the process, but pivot when you come across things that don't go to plan. Plans are important to lay out, and it takes discipline to maintain the work ethic and the smart work that is required to accomplish that. But sort of you're managing a team, and it's a team of two, and that should mean balanced conversations, and each person has an equal say in what gets done. But when the stakes are so high and each person is different, albeit from the same family, and with some similar sensibilities, it can get complicated because both people care equally about the result and the outcome and the process, but how you go about getting to that can be challenging. And I think the difference primarily, if you were to sum it up, between 2014 and 2018 was up until 2014, the games in Sochi, we had, as was appropriate for our age, been relying on the guidance of our coaches. And not that that was any different in 2018, but in 2018, we were relying on our own experience, and our creative process and our training process was much more self-owned from the standpoint that we had been through it, and we had sort of understood what the Olympics was about in experiencing it as fully as we did in 2014. And then kind of setting out a plan for, well, we enjoyed that experience, but we want the result if possible. And result is kind of it's not a guarantee in figure skating. It's a subjective sport. But how can we, put in effort every day and then have something that we can look back on with a lot of pride. And if you can't control the result, it's the process and the stories that you decide to tell. And years from 2018, the performance lives on, and the work that you put in and the relationships that you made and our experience together on the ice every day, waking up early in the morning to skate and then staying sometimes very, very late at night. I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is that I'm really grateful and have a lot of fond memories of that entire process. And even though there were some mistakes made, as is always the case, wouldn't really do it any differently.
Yeah. Would you say, I get this one sometimes, would you say that sometimes the misconception of the Olympics, people always want to, especially if you're a medalist, they want to know about that moment on the podium, which is massive. But Alex, you're so right. It's like, it's the journey. If you could somehow figure out how to, in like 10 seconds or less, right, tell somebody the actual Olympic moment is the combination of the experience getting there and get them to feel and understand that's a pretty special thing, isn't it? I guess my thing, what I really want everybody to understand is like the amount of work that goes into it. So like at your most heavy training period, what did a day look like for you guys? And then inversely, what did the off season look like? Because I think a lot of people would assume Olympians like get time off. Well, like time off looks really different when you're actually still keeping the Olympics in sight.
Sure.
Before you get into the day-to-day, Alex, I feel like when you mention the Olympics, Kate, what comes to mind is a celebration of the human spirit and the power of setting these goals and pushing your boundaries. So I think that that's really what allowed us to put up with the grueling tolls that we put on our body in the day-to-day, because with figure skating, we were preparing all year. It wasn't just about one competition or one moment. As soon as we finished a competitive season, even before we finished a competitive season, we were always thinking ahead and developing whatever we were going to do next.
And from a motivation standpoint, it's tough to find the motivation every day, especially because as you're pushing towards your goal, it's equal parts like motivation and beating yourself up. Every day is that process of building yourself up. And then, well, I really got into it with the hands there. My headphones were all over the place. Very animated speaker. But, it's equal parts motivating yourself and picking yourself back up again and starting that process. And I think that from the standpoint of our creative process, we underwent a much more grueling day-to-day than I think a lot of our competitors did, in part because we knew that we wanted to commit ourselves to telling the stories that we were telling on the ice with our programs. And we had to go that much further because there wasn't an existing movie or a story. Like we weren't skating to a song that a lot of people knew or had skated to before. So, in the minds of the judges and the audience that would be watching us at the Olympics, there wasn't anything really to lean on. And so we had to be so much more responsible about, telling the story and conceptualizing what we were doing on the ice. And so we would skate maybe in the morning. When we were younger, we would have to skate before school. And that was hard. But we gradually sort of shifted towards more of an 8 a.m. start time, right, Maia? Like 7:30. And then, we would take a break at 12 or 1. And then sometimes we would skate more in the afternoon. It varied based on the season, depending on where we were at in our preparation and in our creative process. But if we were off the ice, it was probably a combination of off-ice workouts and music production or off-ice dance and choreography. It's really kind of an all-encompassing, you really try to immerse yourself in the style of dance or music that you're learning. There's a lot of preparation that goes into it.
Does that mean you're probably to it while you're driving to practice? Like, what does grueling mean? Like, how much are you living and breathing this thing? Because I think so many times you do hear about these Olympic mental tactics of like, you have to live into the thing you want to become. Mm-hmm. So like, get into the detail of like, how did you embrace that performance before you even got there?
I mean, it's important to push yourself, but then it's a tricky balance, right? You need enough sleep. You need to try and make sure that you take a step away and zoom out so that you can fully attack and focus on what you need to. But I think one of the strengths that Alex and I had was that it was natural for us to talk about it even when we weren't on the ice, and it didn't feel like work. Yes, it was something that we were both committed towards, but it wasn't like we had to be like, okay, it's 12:30, it's time that we really lock down and have an important conversation. It was always an open conversation between the two of us.
And on the flip side, it wasn't like, oh, 4 p.m., time to punch out. I'll see you tomorrow at 8. And like from, this time to tomorrow, I'm just going to be, quote unquote, numbing myself from the reality of the grind. And I'm going to recover in that way. We drove home together because we carpooled to and from the rink. And so that I think we spent hours more discussing, thinking, conceptualizing, and strategizing our training approach as we prepared for competitions. And so I think that sometimes yielded conflict because when you're living and breathing it to the scope that we were before the 2018 Olympics, it only builds in the intensity, particularly as those big important events get closer. But we always had the base and this foundation of mutual respect and understanding that we were both in it for the same reasons and that we were both equally committed. So
I think one of the important things to mention about training, though, is that you're not just working on things that you're comfortable with or feel like you already know how to do. We were always having to constantly push ourselves to work on the things that we thought needed to improve. There was never any aspect where we could just take a step back and relax. There was always something to do.
Yeah, physically, mentally challenging and grueling. I think we were talking about this. Quarantine leads to a lot of reflection. And we were talking about how much sleep we were getting during this period of time, because sleep is obviously important for athletes, but everybody in order to be able to function at sort of that optimal level. And with many people's day-to-day schedules being kind of thrown up into the wind, we were talking about how the two of us were respectively trying to get enough sleep. And then we remembered that before the Olympics, I think we were maybe averaging 4 to 5 hours just because it was crunch time. And, after each competition, it's like, I don't know, we make some metaphors to like releasing a film, right? The movie comes out, but with each competition, our movie was coming out, and then we would get feedback on it depending on the result that we got, or comments that the judges might give us, or we would look at the tape and we'd be like, oh, I think this part can be a little bit better in the second minute. Right here, we can improve this. And it's not really so much for anyone else, but for us, we know that we can push ourselves to be that much better. And so it's always these like little fiddles and adjustments to the edit.
Living, breathing changes.
It's not like once it's done and once you've made it, that's just the first draft. It will naturally evolve as a creative, living, breathing piece of work. And the point being that you want it to sort of reach the peak at the most important moment, which is the Olympic Games. And so it wasn't like, okay, we've qualified for the Olympics. Now let's just make sure we're rested and feeling good so we can do our best and have a good time. It was very much like, no, we've got to continue pushing the limit on what we know we're capable of, because that's why we've been in this for so long.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's go to Pyeongchang. Like in terms of memories, obviously for each of you, I would love to hear what was your most memorable moment. And maybe, I'm asking because it's not always what you think it is. It's not always being when you win a medal. It's not always about being on the podium. Maybe that is your moment, but I'd love to hear what was your most competitive moment that sticks with each of you. And then also like just Olympic Games moment more generally that sticks with you. Maia, let's start with you.
I don't know how you feel, Alex, but I think that not only because it's more recent, my memories of 2018 are much clearer and stronger because I think I was more experienced and able to take everything in. In 2014, we were really young. So I remember a lot of it felt like a blur. We'd get off the ice and we're like, wow, we can't believe we did that. But with 2018, we were both so present and committed and dedicated to everything. So Probably from a competitive standpoint, there were multiple highlights because we had the opportunity to compete 4 times. So we were very busy throughout the 2 weeks of the Olympics. But the moment that I probably will always remember the most is finishing our individual event free dance, because that was our 4th out of 4 competitive skates at the Olympics. And to just know that we had absolutely done everything. It didn't matter what the score was. We had just performed the very best that we possibly could. That's what you dream of, especially with all the work and preparation that we put into it. So that was very special. But then off the ice, I think, Alex, I don't know about you, but I think it was when we met with the students that we've been mentoring.
Right. Do you want to talk about that?
So we didn't do this in 2014 because, like I said, we were kids. But in 2018, we had the opportunity
We were kids.
We were kids. We had no business. We had no business mentoring kids at that point. But in 2018, we did this 6-month program with a middle school in South Korea. And so every month we talked to this classroom of students who volunteered to be a part of the program because it was an exchange. We talk about our experiences, setting goals, what we did to figure out what we want to do, and they shared Korean culture with us. So amongst everything, when we were training and working so hard, we were dedicating this time once a month in the lead up to the games. And something that was so special was that that class was able to come see us and watch us compete our free dance. And so to be on that journey with them, and then after we were done with the competition, we got to spend some time with them. That was just truly special.
Love it.
Yeah, I'll try to answer quickly, I guess. Off ice moment. Yeah, I think it is a combination of being on the podium, standing there. We had the immense privilege and fortune of being able to perform our best and stand on the podium twice at the Olympic Games. And to be able to do so first with our teammates and obviously with each other. And then in the individual event, to stand on the podium together as siblings and kind of look back, because the team event that we worked together with our teammates to win a bronze medal, that is a relatively new event in figure skating, and skaters in previous generations didn't necessarily have that opportunity. And so growing up, we weren't thinking, oh, we really want to compete in the team event. We only knew it to be the individual ice dance event. And so that being sort of the I guess, monument that we were sort of moving towards on the horizon, to finally be there and to have done it in a way that we were really proud of was incredibly special. And then with the students, it was an amazing process because, in the lead up to the games, there's so many distractions. You're really focused on your own process, your own training, and even the slightest things can kind of be irritating on that journey. But we accepted the opportunity to take part in this cultural exchange program because we really do love and believe in the value that sports bring and the message of the Olympics and the ability to kind of, bring people together from around the world. The Olympics are about unity and respect and taking care of one another and working hard for your goals and doing something to the utmost of your ability. And this program was the epitome of that. And so to be able to meet the kids that we had been talking to over video chat over the course of 6 months, and then for them to have been able to be there, and we saw them in the crowd when we were getting ready to skate, it was a real wow. This is this very special Olympic moment because it's not just about us. We're a part of something much bigger, and it's not our family. It's not even just our country. We're a part of this global event, and it was made much more personal because of their presence there. And so, one of those moments where you're like, oh, the future is bright. These kids are really, really great. And we shared something really special with them. And we were really relieved and happy that we were able to skate well too, because they were watching. We're like, we didn't want to be mentoring them and then kind of just, blow it at the Olympics in front of them. What type of message would that send? But yeah, that was definitely a really special part of it. And, really enjoyed the time in Korea.
I love that. How great that you guys were able to do a program like that to actually make sure the Olympics extends beyond just your own personal experience. Here's a question. Do you have the hardware within grasp, or is it something that's locked away under? Where do you keep your Olympic medals?
I don't think we ever share where we keep it, Alex, do we?
Yeah, that's a question that we get asked a lot. High security vault, miles underground. It's no.
In other words, just not within reach.
Not within
I
reach.
guess.
Yeah.
I
don't
Can you
really
imagine if we were like, oh, you
As a matter of
mentioned.
fact, I wear it reverse so that it's hanging on my back. Just so that
you
it's
can
not
just like
super
swing
obvious.
it around. Yeah.
But
no.
you I'm sure you guys have gotten questions like that. Like, why don't you wear your Olympic medal all the time? I mean,
Well, it's kind of funny because during the Olympics, I think on the Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon, he does this segment called Thank You Notes. And we made one of the segments, and it was like, thank you, Olympians. Something about how you can't wear your Olympic medals basically in public without looking like a total, fill in the blank. And so we actually don't take them out and wear them. Really, it does come down to the object being an object, and it's an incredibly special thing. But even when we were kids building up to, going through the ranks and dreaming of the Olympics, it wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to hold the Olympic medal in my hands. It's like, the ring to rule them all. It's not that. It's not about the object. It's about this feeling of joint accomplishment that we could experience together. And that's what it represents.
well, really sharing your story, right? What we're doing today. So
Sure.
thank you. I mean, I so appreciate that. I am going to turn it over to questions in just a second. One last question for you from me is, what is the thing that you think people, you want people to know about the Olympic Games themselves and an athlete going through that experience that, NBC or the BBC, depending on which part of the world you're watching from, doesn't show?
I think coverage does a really good job of showing everything, but what makes the Olympics so unique, at least in our experience, is that at other competitions that we go to, we're not with other sports. So I think that the whole cafeteria, which isn't normally shown in coverage, the opportunity to meet people from different backgrounds who have made similar sacrifices to you, I think that there's such an easy level of mutual respect and bonds that can be built very quickly.
Real camaraderie.
So I think that that's something that's very special.
Yeah, there are limitations on where media can record. And so, like Maia mentioned, the Olympic cafeteria is one of those spaces, and the common space areas at the Olympics are also a really unique space to be able to meet people from other countries. Sometimes there is an athlete that you may have connected with on social media in this sort of amazing kind of technological moment that we're in, and you've never met in person. And it's really nice to be able to share a meal or a conversation with someone from a very different background or experience, very different sport. But then you realize that, as we all do, regardless of whether we're Olympians or athletes, we have so much more in common than we do not. Or I butchered that, but we have so many things that are amazing that we can share together, and the Olympics really are that for us in our experience. And I think it does come down to the athlete's ability to share their personal story and show who they are, because to an extent the coverages do an amazing job of telling the story of these athletes, sort of, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat and all that stuff. And it's super, exciting. And I think for me, the thing that's always drawn me to the Olympics is the human element of it, the stories, whether someone comes out on top or reaches their own personal goal. There's something very relatable and intensely so about that experience and being able to watch someone going through it live.
Yep, agreed. I love that. Well said. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to some of the questions I'm seeing in the live feed. So I'm going to start with Jacqueline Golda Luke. What are your favorite ways to stay in shape for skating while the ice cream and ice rinks are closed during COVID?
Funny you say that, Jacqueline. Been eating a lot of ice rinks. I mean, ice creams. I mean, rinks for the rinks. We've been working out. One of the interesting things that we found is that it's very possible to stay in good shape physically if with a very limited amount of space at home. And so, we have grown up in a sport where we've had access to a lot of amazing facilities and gyms, and obviously skating, it is something that you can't really duplicate in in a good enough way off the ice.
We're not sliding around in our socks is what you're saying.
Exactly. No. We aren't trying to invent some new sort of cross-training thing. I think actually the most important thing is mental health. And focusing on understanding that this period of time is incredibly unique. No one alive has ever experienced anything quite like it. And so just trying to take care of your emotional and mental health in whatever ways you can, and that each day is kind of like a new experience, and going with that.
And I think at least for us, it's been helpful to remember the connection from physical to mental, where we feel better whenever we exercise and move our bodies versus just kind of staring out windows.
Right.
I love that. Okay, celery sticker, which is one of the best LDAPs I've seen here at Google. Growing up as competitive athletes, what is one thing you feel like you missed out on, and one thing that made your childhood better than it would have been otherwise?
It's a little hard to go back and think of the mindset that we had when we were kids. But looking back, I don't really feel like I missed out on anything, because while our experiences were unique and different, I think that it balanced out and we were able to make up for it in other ways. So maybe I wasn't always able to do things after school, but I found that in the sports community, I was quickly able to make friends with other athletes. And then beyond the sport, just realizing that once you work on achieving some sort of dream or goal, like Alex was saying earlier, we all have much more in common than we have not. So being able to bond with other people just through conversation.
As I said so eloquently.
Yeah. Did I replicate that well enough?
I think so. Yeah. I think that it's often simply put in sort of a not so accurate way, right? Sometimes when talking about an athlete or someone who's really pursued a craft to the highest level, it's like, oh, and they sacrificed prom and all of these things that are so critical to human development from a young age. Not that prom isn't a great thing, but whoa, are we good?
You're still there.
Sorry, it's my active hands. I think that, you, like Maia said, you find friends and you find people who share your enthusiasm for the things that you're interested in. And so we always had each other. So I think we were in some ways insulated to feeling a little bit more isolated in our sort of unique approach to our childhood. But we still went to movies, and we were able to balance a very happy childhood with sort of the pursuit of this kind of very specific goal.
All right. So Serena Wang asks, any pre-event rituals or practices you have to calm your nerves before a competition that you can share with us? And I ask this because I'll just share, now being an Olympian that's in the business community, a lot of the questions that I employ a lot of the things that I learned as an athlete into the workspace. So like getting up for a big presentation, I definitely use those skills as an athlete. What would be some of those things that before you step out on the ice, you do to calm your nerves, or even the night before the big event?
Sure. I did 5,000 push-ups before this this call, just to sort of get my my physical and mental space in harmony.
Groove,
Right, totally. Yeah, this was a big event for me in quarantine, which actually you would be surprised. This is a highlight of quarantine. Meditation. It's not something that I developed into my routine until later on. Until I was older, because you can be told things a number of times from people who are older, wiser, more experienced than you. And you'll be like, I get it. But until you sort of realize the benefits of doing it and through practice, it's not something that you're really going to be able to commit yourself to with any level of consistency. So meditation is definitely something that kind of helped calm my mind and my active hands before competitions.
You and me both. Okay, Jackie Doan asked a question that I should have asked, which I think is great. And it relates to kind of life post Pyeongchang right now, knowing that you haven't made big decisions about what's next. What insights about yourself or your career have you both gained during the time you've taken off from competing since the last games?
I feel like there's just kind of an added confidence, and I don't think I can just purely credit that to the Olympics, but it comes with growing up and taking in new experiences and just realizing that we're all always growing. And so I just think that we're coming into our own more. And something that's been unique about our time since 2018 is that we've always been a great team, but then also since we haven't been in that daily training grind, we've been able to have some individual experiences as well. So I think that that almost makes Alex and I appreciate our relationship even more, because we can share things with each other versus experiencing everything all the time together.
Right. Yeah, I think that's how I feel about it as well. I will elaborate slightly, I guess, just from my own personal feeling. I think that we've always really enjoyed learning. Every year in skating, you're learning something new every day. You're learning more about yourself, your weaknesses, your strengths, and trying to build on those. And so going forward, I mean, no one's really too sure of like anything these days. Only that like today is the day and tomorrow, will happen, hopefully. And like, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet beyond skating, but I do know that through skating, I have discovered this real passion for telling stories and using storytelling with Maia, whether it's our YouTube channel or our programs on the ice or through social media, and using our platform to talk about things that are important to us. Storytelling has an incredible power to connect people, just like sports. And I think, in quarantine, it's been a nice escape to watch a show or a movie or listen to a podcast, anything with narrative that can sort of like bring joy or distraction if you need it, or introduce new ideas. Those are the types of things that I think Maia and I are really passionate about doing moving forward. And it's something that we've been experimenting with for the past couple of years now since the Olympics.
I love that. I'm going to commandeer the questions again, just based on your comment, Alex. I like I said, I spent a lot of time on the Shib Sibs YouTube channel, which is fantastic. And you just interviewed Johan Olaf Koss, who is a dear friend of mine, former Olympic speed skating champion,
Legend,
but also
yeah.
Founder of an NGO. Amazing. How do you guys pick for your YouTube channel? Because it's great. And obviously you've been spending a lot more time, really developing content for that. And I would imagine quarantine has enabled that as well. But how do you choose your guests, and really what's the goal of your channel?
Our channel has definitely evolved over the years, right, Alex? We're
not YouTubers in the traditional sense. I think we use it. It's an amazing platform that gives us the opportunity to like democratically share behind the scenes footage or vlogs, or we started out originally doing music videos because it was a really unique way for us to
lip
connect.
syncing, not music videos.
Lip syncing to existing music with skaters that we met on tour when we were much younger. And we grew up with a generation of skaters that never had access to, or, we were the first generation that had social media. And so it was, finding all these people who spoke different languages that were now sort of touring around a particular country. I think in our case, it was Japan. And we, used making videos and making short sketches. We used that as a tool to bond and create lasting memories. And it's a great scrapbook. So if you want to go back and watch a bunch of really famous skaters doing incredibly silly sketches and vlog videos, then that's what you can see on the Shib Sibs channel. But like everything, as people, we've evolved, and our sort of disposition for the type of content that we want to work on has changed a little bit too. So in quarantine, we sort of launched more of a long form interview segment where we've been talking to people who we feel are sort of bringing positive vibes to the world, whether it's them sharing their own stories, or them being a middle school librarian from Nashville, Tennessee, or a doctor who's working to bring PPE, personal protective equipment, to other healthcare workers in the country during this time, or Johan, who, launched through Olympic Aid Right to Play, which is an organization that we've been ambassadors for many years now, and just trying to take these sort of nuggets of wisdom and experience and share them with the people who have been following us for all these years, because we find it incredibly useful and educational and beneficial. And I think people have been feeling that way as well.
Well, I'll just say it's incredible. I mean, you guys have really, you understand the power of just sharing your content with the world, which everybody wants, and you do it in such a genuine way. So I think you could come back and train athletes on YouTube channel on how to actually build out their own kind of real forum for hosting their personalities and sharing their message with the world. It's a really powerful thing, and it's something that I think a lot of Olympians don't actually understand how to do. So the fact that you guys have really set the bar for doing it is something you should know is incredibly valuable. So I encourage you to share your knowledge and wisdom with other athletes who could benefit from what you've been doing. Just looking at some of the comments, you should know there's a lot of Go Bluers, and you should definitely make sure you go through the live comments when we're off, because you've got a lot of fans out there, not surprisingly. But talk to us a little bit about the Go Blue connection. So I went to Michigan. You guys go to Michigan. There's a lot of Googlers that went to Michigan, as well as the rest of them everywhere. But
Right.
What's that experience been since competing, and just the whole transition into actually being university students?
What's been amazing is that our career has kind of taken us to different places in the country. So we were living in Ann Arbor for 14 years. So we have ties to Michigan, but like Alex mentioned, we grew up in Connecticut. He was born in Boston. I was born in New York. So come time for the Olympics, there were a lot of different areas that were cheering us on and sending support. So that was really special. But then as far as balancing school and training, it was always a challenge. But growing up, education was something that was so important because, especially as an athlete, I mean, there are no guarantees in anything, but we made sure to have that balance where with injuries, you never know what's going to happen. And I think that really what we learned over the years was that the more we grew as people off the ice, the more we could bring to whatever we were doing on the ice.
And whatever the focus is, being a more well-rounded and open-minded person is incredibly important to sort of filling out sort of your possibilities as an individual. And so our experiences at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, albeit unique, were amazing. And I think that it's definitely something that we really prioritized growing up. We've always placed an importance on education, even though after 2014, we made kind of the joint decision that we wanted to really focus on the Olympics for that 4-year period leading up to the games. And in a way, even though we weren't in school as often from 2014 to 2018, we were seeking out our education in other ways. And I think that, school is a great choice for a lot of people, but it's not necessarily the only way to go about becoming a more enlightened person. There's so many tools and resources out there that I've even been using during this period of time. And so, it was the right choice for us, but it was the right choice at that time.
You really mentioned it, Alex, because it's about being open-minded to different experiences. And I think that Alex and I both just really enjoy learning about new things. And so that was really helpful with our, process between 2014 and 2018, because we had to go beyond just the information that was readily accessible and really seek out different things that we could bring back to what we were doing.
Well, listen, you guys, we are so grateful for being able to have you join us at Talks at Google. I feel incredibly honored to have had this conversation with you both. I've always been a fan. We wish you nothing but the best in your future endeavors, ice dancing and otherwise, YouTube channel and otherwise. And again, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. Kate. Is there time for a plug?
Plug.
Okay, cool. So we've been working on our first book series since the Olympic Games. It's been sort of a project that has been exciting for us. It's going to be coming out on September 8th. It's called Kudo Kids. The first book is called Kudo Kids, The Mystery of the Masked Medalist. It's about 2 Asian American siblings named Andy and Mika, slightly based on some of our my personality quirks and Maia's personality triumphs and achievements. But it's about 2 Asian American siblings that go on an adventure, and we're really excited about it. And we've been working on it, and it's kind of like a first step into telling stories in a different way, outside of skating and outside of even our YouTube channel or social media. So we're looking forward to that coming out and people being able to enjoy it.
Awesome. Say it one more time.
Kudo Kids.
Kudo
The Mystery of the Masked Medalist. Yeah.
by Alex and Maia Shibutani.
Oh,
Thank
for
you
sure,
guys.
Maya and Alex. Maya's the boss.
For sure, Maia.
Teamwork.
Well done. All right, you guys. Thanks for being with us, and we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you.